All right, we're live. We're live on the Raw review for February 11th, 2019. Aaron, what's up, dude?
What's going on, man? That was a tough one to get through.
It was. That Raw was awful tonight, and it doesn't get any better with the result of the final segment. I think everybody's freaking out right here, and let's just touch on this right out of the gate, dude. First of all, if you've never been to this channel before, we are PWP Nation. I'm Jay Leto. That's Aaron Romanov. We are kicking ass all the time at pwpnation.com. Please hit that subscribe button if you dig the content, and also hit your notifications, your on button, your alert button, your bell button. Hit that as well to get your notifications for us, and check out our other content as the weeks and months go on, brother. So we're heading to WrestleMania. Now the main event's going to be Charlotte Flair versus Ronda Rousey. There's a bumpy road for Becky Lynch, dude. Apparently she's suspended 60 days, according to Vince McMahon, the man behind the madness tonight, dude. What do you say about this, bro?
Yeah, no, quite a very interesting turn of events. I think a lot of people are slightly overreacting a little bit. I think they think that this is actually going to go through. I don't believe that Becky Lynch will actually miss WrestleMania. I don't believe that she'll actually be left out of this match. I think they will find a way to put her in. I think that's the only way they can build a story with her, it seems like right now, because after a 3-hour show where the entire show is built around Becky Lynch apologizing to the McMahons, it's obvious that they don't have a clear storyline that they want to tell with this Ronda and Becky match. So I guess the best thing that they could come up with was putting Charlotte in the match and then having Becky chase the match that she already won. Okay, I guess so.
Yeah, it's very strange development how they did it with a suspension for 60 days, putting her 5 days past WrestleMania. That 60 days thing is important here, though, because that just shows you how long we have to get to WrestleMania. And my concern, I think it might have been last week. I can't really remember, but I think last week I said, I'm worried about how much time they have to WrestleMania. Like, you had Ronda Rousey take out the Riott Squad. Now she's scheduled to face Ruby Riott at Elimination Chamber. So how much more is there for her to do on this road to WrestleMania? You kind of had to add Charlotte. It made sense. It's the only way to get this thing going, and how they get Becky back into the match is really the intrigue here. So I just want to put it on the record that I am lit tonight. So if I'm sounding a little weird or kind of different, I'm lit up. So I've been partying all night long watching Monday Night Raw, because that's the only way to really get through it.
I was very restrained tonight. I tried to stay very observant throughout the night, but it was really hard, man. I almost fell asleep. I think I almost fell asleep during the tag team match with the Revival and Roode and Gable. Like, I was very close. But yeah, man, that was a tough one. So
yeah, I zoned out a little bit during that match too, but it caught on towards the end. But let's start with the top of the show here, man. We basically already gave away what happened, but we had Triple H with Becky Lynch and Stephanie McMahon in the ring as well. And all that kept going through my head during this segment was, when is Stephanie going to get her ultimate revenge on Becky Lynch? Because she's taking some verbal shit from Becky, and usually she gets everybody back who puts the heat on her. So my thought is, how's this going to go down? I know there's a rumor that they might have a match at SummerSlam. I think that's something that could happen. I think that's very possible, depending on what happens with Becky Lynch at WrestleMania, whether she's going to win the title or not, and how long the run's going to be if and when she does win the title. But this segment went down with basically Triple H and Stephanie saying, listen, Becky, you need to apologize or else you're out of the WrestleMania main event. She's not suspended anymore until obviously the end of the show, when she got 60 days from Vince. But this opening segment was kind of okay. I mean, they kind of just laid the groundwork for Elimination Chamber and finished off this little tiny segment of it with Becky Lynch. I mean, it was okay. I have no real complaints here.
yeah, I thought it was fine. I mean, like you said, I was expecting the Stephanie McMahon verbal undressing, the classic, just beat the baby face down to make them look incredibly weak. And I guess we could argue that they kind of did that anyway toward the end with Vince McMahon instead. But yeah, it's the opening segment was fine, I guess. There's been a lot of comparisons with Stone Cold Steve Austin, and I don't want to be the person to kind of compare them the entire time, but that's what everyone else is doing. Everyone else is comparing these two. and in the storylines with Vince and Stone Cold, and then now Becky and the McMahons, and they couldn't be further apart. I mean, Becky doesn't, again, I'm going to catch some shit for it, but she doesn't convince me as a character. She still, I think, is maybe still getting used to being this new character. You know, we've got to remember, she's only been this character for, what, less than a year? So she's still kind of finding her groove with it. But, yeah, really just not convincing to me personally, from what I look for in professional wrestling. Just wasn't very convincing to me in this segment, at least. And then Hunter and Stephanie asking for the apology and then building the entire show off of it really was a little tone deaf for me. I mean, I just feel like they could have done so much more. I think this whole apology thing could have started and finished within the first hour. I mean, the fact that they drug this out over 3 hours long is really what, in my opinion, killed this entire show. So
I like when they do this, though, in some way, shape, and form, where they take a storyline and they kind of thread it throughout the show. I do like the context of that in most cases, but I'm with you on the fact that this was lame. There's nothing more I could say but lame. At the end of the day, who cares about an I'm sorry? How many people say that in everyday vernacular and don't mean it? And Becky Lynch's attitude has been like that. She hasn't meant anything she said over the past however many months. She's you know, or maybe she has meant it, but a lot of the time she's acting like a heel. She's acting different, and it's within reason that she wouldn't mean it when she says I'm sorry to the authority like this. But at the end of the day, she did, and that's how we basically got our crescendo in the show later on. But moving on with this, I did like how this transitioned right into the tag team match, the women's tag team match, which we didn't see much of Sasha Banks. Obviously, she's nursing an injury, but it was a
the women match. Yes, two tags for Boston P match and for the 4-3. We just do Nix and wanting some BS first. I mean, is that his one's number?
yeah, something's we're having some technical difficulties.
We are, hold on. Dude, lost head. Can you now, bro?
yo.
Yeah.
You can hear me now?
Yes.
All right,
Okay.
cool. All right, my bad. Yeah, my headphones out of nowhere. See,
Okay.
don't smoke vapes, guys.
Yeah.
Listen to this. All right. Basically, so this, what I was saying was this it was basically a triple threat tag team match for the first ones in the chamber, which I guess puts you at a big disadvantage for the women's tag team titles. And the losers were Bayley and Sasha Banks, mainly because Sasha Banks is injured and couldn't wrestle in the match. So we got Nia Jax picking up the win. This is basically cut and dry, you know. Nothing. This wasn't even a good match. This wasn't even a good match. I didn't like it.
I will say the one thing that I did like about it was there was a sequence in the match where Bayley was really hot. Like she had like a string of moves that I think it lasted at least a minute or two where she was just taking people out all over the place. And I will say that there was that's one bright spot that I found out of this match was that I think people forget how good Bayley can be when she's presented in a strong babyface role. And I thought in the ring, she looked really, really good tonight. But I think, again, I don't really understand why you even have Bayley and Sasha in this match tonight. If Sasha can't work, why put Bayley in there to make her look weak and take the pin? I just don't see the purpose there. I guess maybe they just don't want to pin anybody else. But I think this easily could have been a regular tag match and just have Sasha and Bayley do commentary. But
for sure, yeah, they overbooked themselves sometimes, and this was a situation where maybe they're indicating that Sasha and Bayley might win this match and win the women's tag team titles. But for some reason, dude, I just have a feeling it's going to be a SmackDown team. My original prediction was Nia Jax, Tamina, but since they won tonight in kind of dominating fashion, I think I'm jumping over to SmackDown on this. I don't know, but I'm thinking it's one of those teams. I haven't really made up my mind yet. We transitioned this into Elias. Now, this was, again, something cool. Everyone was kind of bumping into each other. Like they transitioned to a backstage segment with Becky Lynch, who crossed paths with Sasha Banks and Bayley on her way out of the ring. And then she crosses paths with Elias, who's next. And then this turned into like this weird thing where they kept cutting Elias off. And at first they came off like they made a technical difficulty, a mistake in the broadcast, you know, because it cut right back to Becky Lynch with Finn Balor backstage. And she's just, I don't know, man. And this is the lameness of the angle. She's so worried about making this decision, whether to say I'm sorry or not, like it's a career-defining thing. Like it's a moment in her entire career that's going to make or break her. To me, it's a no-brainer. I think everybody would apologize in that situation, but Finn Balor tried to give his advice, and I guess he was her teacher at one point in time. So Elias in the ring again gets cut off by a Seth Rollins promo, and then gets cut off by Lucha House Party. Now, dude, real quick, the entire time I was hoping Elias would destroy all three of those guys instead of going through like the killing time segment they did, which wasn't entertaining at all. I was critical of this because Raw kind of lost me here. This is when I started thinking, what the hell am I watching? And I wasn't a fan of this, man. It really didn't. Nothing ended up happening here except Elias kind of putting a beat down on them, but not really. Just hitting Kalisto and then running. I was hoping to see Elias get some real heat, like destroy these guys, but they're half pregnant with him, man. They don't want to go full out with Elias yet. They're not feeling it for some reason.
They clearly don't know what to do with him, and the fact that they keep running with the, have this guy interrupt him, have this person interrupt him, it's clear that they just don't have a direction for him, and that's okay. I mean, I can understand you not having a direction for a couple of guys on your roster, but when it becomes like a common theme where all these people are directionless and there's really no rhyme or reason to what they do, you tend to care less and less about them. And I'll talk about it when we get to the revival thing, but Elias has been beaten down so much, not physically speaking, but just as a character, that like, why do I even care about him anymore? And the fact that he turned on the snap of a finger, and we don't even know why. I mean, have they even explained why all of a sudden he hates everybody? Like why even turn him if you have nothing really planned for him anyway? So you're just gonna have him go out there with Lucha House Party, and he's gonna hit Kalisto with a fucking guitar. I mean, okay, yeah. I mean, we all pop for guitar spots, but at some point, it gets to the point where it's obvious that they don't have a direction for him, and it just goes to show that they book at a pace where they change their mind one week, they change their mind the next, and they don't have any clear direction on what to do with him. So,
yeah, I can't say it better myself, dude. They've had this problem for months with this guy, a year with this guy. They don't know what to do, and to me, it seemed like organic that he was a babyface. The fans loved him; they were digging what he was doing, and they just can't find ways to continually make him entertaining. They've done this thing with the interrupting him over and over and over and over again. It's all they seem to do. All they know to do. It's fucking terrible. So
I would like to throw out there that if anybody can find, I think you mentioned earlier, Jay, if anybody could find how many times they've run with the interrupting spots, and like get me all the Elias segments, all the Elias matches, and get me a count of how many times they've run this exact story where someone interrupts him, I guarantee you the number has to be like 90% or 95% of the time.
Yeah, I don't know about that high, but I'd say it's above 50%. Easily above 50% at this point.
Yeah.
It's all they got. It's crazy, bro.
That's it.
And here's where they transition again real quickly. They move fast here into Bobby Lashley and Lio Rush coming out. And this is something I noticed too. And again, when these guys come out, I'm immediately thinking, oh, Bobby Lashley's going to come here and destroy the Lucha House Party. He's going to lay waste to these guys before the commercial, but he doesn't do anything. He does nothing. And I was hoping we would see a beatdown here, man, because Lucha House Party are jobbers. They're jobbers. Why are we trying to keep them strong? Just destroy them. They're cruiserweights. So then
that's the thing. So real quick with these, like you were saying earlier, the pace of this show is really weird, where they would have just kind of segments merged together and just be like, okay, well, you go out now and everyone's still in the ring from the previous segment, and they're just going to kind of awkwardly like walk past you out of the frame of the camera, but they would still get into the frame of the camera sometimes. And it's like I get that they want the pace to kind of feel a little bit different, and I'm all for them trying new things and all that, but it felt like, I don't know about you, but hasn't it felt like they've been rushing since this overrun has disappeared? It feels like, especially the last 15 to 20 minutes of the show, it feels like, especially these final segments, like a final talking segment, it feels like they're just going so quickly to try and get it done, and before they go off the air. And as crazy as it sounds, I almost want the overrun back. But that's a discussion for another day.
I like the overrun a lot, dude. I really liked it because it was unpredictable. It was like one piece of the puzzle that was completely unpredictable. You never knew when Raw was going off the air. So there was always a possibility of somebody making a run-in or something else happening or a big announcement or whatever. There was always that slight possibility they were going to kind of do something huge. And now when they're running out of time, you can just click a stopwatch and you know when they're finished. So it takes away from the show a little bit for me. But again, it tightens it up a little bit too, and that's the positive of it. This next thing was I'm not going to say confusing, but I can't really remember off the top of my head exactly how the sequence went here, because you had Bobby Lashley, who was supposed to, I believe earlier it was announced that he was supposed to wrestle Finn Balor on the show, and I think they rewrote the script or something tonight, and it was Finn Balor versus Drew McIntyre with Bobby Lashley at ringside. And it turned into this big hodgepodge where Kurt Angle made a save, Braun Strowman made a save, you got Baron Corbin out there. The sequence of how this happened, I can't really remember, dude. It really doesn't matter. This turns into a 6-man tag. Then it turns into another 6-man tag. Then this was a 50-minute segment, dude. I believe something like that. I think somebody counted it. It was like 47 minutes or something. And ends with the baby faces going over, Kurt Angle, Braun Strowman, and Finn Balor defeating Drew McIntyre, Baron Corbin, and Bobby Lashley here. I mean, we kind of saw a variation of this last week. Now we're seeing it again. Baby faces going over strong. I really, with WrestleMania around the corner, I really don't know what they're doing with any of these guys right now. Again, it seems like a situation where we can kind of see Finn Balor and Bobby Lashley going one-on-one. That makes sense. But nothing else to me really falls in place at this stage of the game. So you got anything on this, man?
Yeah, it's another unfortunate example of just directionless booking. I mean, there's no direction for any of these 6 guys, and what they decided to do was pair them up with each other. And now we're just going to have them all fight together until they have either their singles matches later down the line, or they're going to have just a 6-man tag match at WrestleMania. And the fact that Braun Strowman and Drew McIntyre, most importantly, are stuck in this kind of neutral position where they don't want to do anything with them because they don't want to commit them to anything before, just in case they have to put them somewhere else. And they don't want to pin them, so they're trying to protect them without doing anything really to enhance their storylines or to enhance their characters. So you have Drew McIntyre and Braun Strowman stuck in this angle with a bunch of other people who have just been floating in obscurity. So it's just the problem with tonight's show, and I was saying this a lot on Twitter tonight, that so there was some stuff on this show that was okay in a vacuum. Like, you take that revival match later on in the show and you put that in a vacuum, you just watch that match. It's a good match. It's a good match. But when you take it all into context, when you realize that for the last 4 to 5 months, the show has just been atrocious, and all these guys have had nothing to do, you lose investment in all these guys. It doesn't matter what they're doing. It doesn't matter how good the match is. You lose investment. You don't care anymore. And that's where I'm at with all 6 of these guys, unfortunately. And they're all talented. They're all good wrestlers. They're all good characters. But WWE has beaten me down so much to where I don't necessarily care about any of them, which is unfortunate.
I have this weird feeling here, though, man. This was kind of occurring to me during Raw when I was thinking about this kind of hodgepodge. I have a feeling that they might add somebody else to this thing. Like, the heels might get another heel, and the baby faces might get another baby face, and it might turn into like a mega WrestleMania tag team match. Because I remember a few years ago, they had the same situation. I want to say it was WrestleMania. Correct me if I'm wrong. You might remember, but I want to say it was 28, where they did Team Johnny Ace versus Team Teddy Long. And they had this just mixed match. Like, I don't even know how to say it. Like, just this crazy cast of characters on each side. It was just a bunch of guys and girls that had nothing to do around that time. And it was a strange time in WWE. It was a cool time in a lot of ways. But I don't know why, man. I have a hunch they're going to add a heel, and then they're going to add maybe like maybe they'll add Undertaker to this to kind of spice it up a little bit. Maybe they'll throw him in there, like to be the big baby face that helps the baby face team, because they don't seem to have anything to do with him, which is fucking crazy to me. But speaking of crazy, moving on, Ruby Riott and Nikki Cross. Nikki Cross is crazy. This is job match for Nikki Cross here. I mean, nobody in the right mind thought she was going to get a win wrestling Ruby Riott right before Ruby Riott fights Ronda Rousey at Elimination Chamber. Dude, I'm going to be honest. I don't remember a single spot here. I don't even remember the finish. I don't remember what happened. I had no interest at all because I knew Ruby Riott was going to win right away, man. So if you got anything here, bro, please go for it.
The only thing I got here is that the fact that they used Nikki Cross to legitimize Ruby Riott is a really interesting choice because she's somebody who just got to the main roster and has just slowly just deteriorating in position on the card. I mean, you see her with Alicia Fox a couple weeks ago, and I wasn't here last week, but I really wanted to say, the only reason Nikki Cross was put in a backstage segment with Alicia Fox is so that Nikki Cross could say in her accent, Fox, and Vince McMahon can be belly laughing, slapping somebody on the shoulder. Oh, that was great, pal. Like just horrible toilet humor. And now we have Nikki Cross in this match with Ruby Riott, who both of them great workers. Really, I like them both as talents, but just really a bad choice for Nikki Cross here to take a loss, especially when you're trying to build her up and she's fairly new to the audience. You've already kind of made her just another girl on the roster. So
yeah, she's basically finished now. She's lost to, I know she lost to Becky Lynch. She's lost a bunch of matches already, man. She's had a bunch of losses here, and I think she's completely lost. She needs her faction with her. She needs Sanity. That's another group of guys that's totally lost that we haven't seen on SmackDown in probably a month, maybe 2 months, maybe. Why not just put her back with them? I mean, I don't know, dude. I don't know what the hell they're doing. Seth Rollins is next. Seth Rollins, man, he's just out here talking about his childhood dream. Like, didn't get much from Seth Rollins until the end, but I do like how they had him kind of be very like babyface in the beginning. And then by the end of this entire segment, after Paul Heyman kind of goaded him on, and Paul Heyman's a fucking master on the microphone. I don't care what anybody says. I even was freestyling ideas here. I was saying, like, on Twitter, I said something along the lines of, what if Paul Heyman during this feud brings in like an ECW faction to like have a gauntlet against Seth Rollins, and Seth Rollins beats them all? And I'm talking about bringing back everybody like Sabu and fucking the Sandman and who the hell else knows, man? All those old ECW heads, the Dudley Boys and shit, and just have him beat like 8 straight guys in a row. Just freestyling, man. And also, like, I was thinking about, what if WWE decides to go a different route? Because the key line in this whole entire segment was at the end when Seth Rollins said, I will sell my soul to the devil to beat Brock Lesnar. And to me, like, that's a big line. That's a line that if they spit out in like 1998, 1999, that's a line that would mean something in the context of the storyline. So that one line there got me thinking, like, what if the Authority helps Seth Rollins win at WrestleMania? What if they construct some kind of screw job on Brock Lesnar, and all of a sudden Lesnar's the one that's being screwed with politically, being screwed with overall, to get the title off him. I don't know. I'm freestyling ideas here. I'm trying to think of things that could make this thing better, because again, 60 days until WrestleMania or whatever it is, and we've got a long time. They're going to run out of things to talk about and things to do with Rollins and Brock Lesnar. So why not try something different?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not mad about either one of those suggestions. I don't necessarily know if I want to see the Sandman wrestle in 2019.
In my defense, the ECW one was kind of satire. I was just joking around.
Okay, good.
The more I think about the visual, though, it would be fucking awesome, dude. I would love it. I mean, it could be like a 2-week thing. Like 1 week, Paul Heyman goes, "Here's what I got for you, Seth Rollins," and all these ECW legends come out. And then
you're not getting me to agree with that. So. But I think Seth Rollins. I think turning Seth Rollins right now would be, I'm not saying you're saying this should happen, but just I think turning him right now would be a bad move. I think he's like one of the think he's the only real credible like babyface you have on the show in a sea of heat and heels and crappy finishes and just terrible writing. There's Seth Rollins. I can depend on Seth Rollins segments every week to, I know he is in just a groove of promos on a week-to-week basis. The guy always comes out lately and has just been killing it on the mic. The guy's in-ring work is absolutely out of this world. So I think keeping Seth Rollins the way he is right now for as long as possible, and as long as he's still hot, keep him that way. Keep pushing him to the moon. I think I'm a firm believer that whenever you have somebody who's organically over like this, just keep the rocket strapped to their back and keep going, because in today's WWE, it's very hard to find somebody who's organically over like he is. And I thought Paul Heyman was a great addition to this segment. I thought he was Paul doesn't get enough credit for not only his mic work, obviously, but just his facial expressions when the other guy's talking. Just the kind of, like when Seth started talking about, I'll do anything to get there. I'll do anything to win that title. You saw Paul's face slowly changing. I thought that was a nice little thing there that kind of added to the moment. But yeah, Seth Rollins keeps killing it. I'm excited to see what they're going to do at WrestleMania with him. And, like you said, it's 60 days is a long time. So it's going to be interesting to see how they fill that time for him.
Yeah, man. I was just looking at Offended Podcast's tweet on Becky here, man. Dude, Offended Podcast is one of our our flagship podcast, basically on the PWP Nation network. They've been crushing it, man. They're I think they're at episode 80 something. Like they're getting close to 100, I'm pretty sure. So that's a
something like that.
Deal. That's a big deal. So here's their tweet. I wish I could screen share, bro. I don't know how to do it, but I'm okay. Offended Podcast says, I'm okay with this as long as Becky Lynch goes fucking full-blown Steve Austin and kicks everyone's ass until she's back in the match at WrestleMania. So they want Becky to go full-blown Steve Austin, man. Full-blown Steve Austin. Another interesting thing, and it's back to Rollins. Rollins had an encounter with Dean Ambrose here. Dean Ambrose comes out and basically says, Slay the Beast. Like, he's babyface again. Ambrose is babyface. Gets on his way out. Transitions, another transition here straight into EC3 versus Dean Ambrose. Another, kind of throwaway match here. It wasn't a great match at all. They didn't do anything special here. It was standard, real basic from what I remember. And Dean Ambrose wins with a small package. So I think this is what we're going to get from Dean Ambrose from here on out, stuff like this week to week.
Yeah, it was just weird. It was just weird. I mean, he just strolls out there. like the last, I don't know, 5 months just never happened. He just walks out there, just no care in the world, and just strolls in there and goes, yeah, good luck. Hope you slay the beast. It's like what am I watching? Why should I even care what's going to happen for the next 4 or 5 months? Because in 4 or 5 months after that, the guys might just be friends, and we can all just sing along, and everyone can be friends again. And it's just so tone deaf. It's something that I just feel like, even though he's on his way out, why? 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 I don't know, man. I don't know. I just hate shit like this.
Yeah, it's clearly the Dean Ambrose farewell tour. I mean, they might as well have him be a babyface again because he's going to sign autographs and take pictures at WrestleMania. So I think, and he's got the worst slot, man. I was looking at the WrestleMania access. He's got Sunday morning at 8 a.m. That's his autograph spot, Ambrose. So they stuck him with the absolute drizzling shit's worth spot. Who wants to? It's WrestleMania. And your ass has to be up and signing autographs at 8 a.m. And you got to catch a nap during the day because you're not wrestling until – he's probably not going to wrestle. Well, knowing his spot in the card, he's probably going to wrestle at, 7 o'clock at WrestleMania. He might not even be on the main show this year. So that's sad to think of that for Ambrose, no matter what his standing with the company is. I really think they should do something special with him at WrestleMania. It's his last one. It might be his last one ever. Ever. That's always a possibility.
Yeah. For example, I was talking about a couple weeks ago, I think, about Kurt Angle and how, using somebody like Kurt Angle who can still put on quality matches and I don't want to see him every week on television, but, I'd be okay with him having one big final storyline going into this WrestleMania with somebody. And, they built in the story, like I said a couple weeks ago, where, can Angle do it? Can he still win the big one? Can he even compete with some of these guys? You had a heel like Dean Ambrose who was doing fucking nothing, for WrestleMania. Why not have Dean Ambrose slide into that role? Him and Kurt Angle, Dean Ambrose and Kurt Angle at WrestleMania 35, and the crazy thing about it, Jay, is you could have Kurt Angle finally win the big one because Dean Ambrose is leaving anyway. So you can have him win the big one. Kurt Angle, big, great moment of him in WrestleMania in front of however 70,000 people chanting "You suck" at him while he finally wins the big one. Like, it's not that hard, man. I mean, when I talk to some people on Twitter and they tell me, you claim to know better than them. Yeah, I do. I mean, clearly, because what I saw tonight was, Kurt Angle being wasted away in some 6-man tag and Dean Ambrose coming out and sitting on a fucking office chair at ringside. I mean, it's just, I don't know, just stupid.
Yeah. You're fucking A right, though. That was good. I like that, man. Ambrose versus Angle would have been dope. But and you should definitely cut that into like a micro content, like that little rant right there. Definitely do that. But I like Kurt Angle versus The Undertaker, actually. I think they should do Angle versus Taker at WrestleMania. That's a dream match at Mania we've never seen, but we've absolutely seen the match before. No, man, I really have nothing else on Ambrose here. Let's get this thing rolling because we're about to have the best match of the night. We did have a little backstage encounter with Alexa Bliss and Becky Lynch, which I actually liked. I remember this because it was a good storytelling. It kind of just kept Becky Lynch's character rolling in the right direction. And same with Alexa Bliss. Becky basically just called Alexa Bliss out for being a bullshitter, and that's awesome. So it was good. Revival versus Gable and Rude. No entrances here. They had short entrances. I was kind of surprised that Rude and Gable didn't get an entrance, being the tag team champions in their final defense. But this is a great match. This, in my mind, probably should have closed the show because I always want like a big main event match. But that's before obviously we saw what happened at the end of the show. You absolutely have to close with that announcement. But really solid match. Just the only thing that I really loved about Monday Night Raw tonight. Great tag team psychology, awesome spots here, a lot of near falls, a lot of cool shit that we really haven't seen much of. And, dude, overall, just a fantastic match. Revival fucking on top, winning the Raw tag team titles for the first time. Awesome.
Yeah, cool match. Again, in a vacuum, this match was great. The Revival winning the titles is great. Again, all in a vacuum. But when you put it with the context of however long they've been on the main roster and being treated like total fucking dweebs for weeks and weeks and weeks, and they don't get an entrance. Like, it just this company is so great at taking a moment that should be really, really good and like should be celebrated and should be a really feel good moment, not only for like the characters but just the fans in general, and kind of minimizing it to the point where they want you to feel so invested in it, but they've given you nothing to grab onto. They've given what in the last 4 to 5 months have the Revival done on television to get me, 1, to care about them, 2, to be invested in what happens to them, and 3, like, in what world was I really rooting for Rude and Gable when I've barely seen them on TV the last couple weeks? Like, I don't know. It's just again, another situation where they could have built this up. It could have been a really nice long storyline where the Revival finally win their first tag titles on Raw, and it just became another tag title match on Raw that we'll probably forget about in the next couple weeks anyway.
And in WWE's mind, this was a big storyline. That in their mind, they built this storyline up for weeks and weeks and weeks. Like the Revival, if you remember, kept getting screwed over and over and over again, like the foot on the ropes. And I think like at one match, Kurt Hawkins was the referee and maybe Heath Slater was the referee. They were doing weird stuff like that for a while. And the Revival always got screwed. Maybe they should have won the match or they lost for a nefarious reason. But in WWE's mind, this has been a long storyline, a long road to the titles for the Revival. In our minds, though, it hasn't been. It's been just they kind of as soon as the news broke that the Revival was disgruntled and apparently requested the release to wrestle for AEW or whatever the case may possibly be, reportedly, allegedly. Ever since that happened, we kind of know where their direction was going because WWE obviously wants to keep the Revival around due to the lack of depth in their tag team division. And but taking nothing away from them in ring. They're fantastic in the ring. I do love them in the ring. They're great wrestlers. But you're right. From a character development perspective, they haven't really done anything that's been meaningful. Nothing at all. And hopefully this tag team title reign is something that's awesome. I'm not sure who they're going to defend against. They don't really have a good dance partner here. And I can't see, I don't know, maybe Undisputed Era comes up to the main roster soon, have some good matches with the Revival. Because I think Roderick Strong and Kyle O'Reilly versus the Revival would be fucking awesome. But at the end of the day, they just need good matches. Week in and week out, build the division that way, because that's what AEW is going to do. That's what Ring of Honor has been doing. That's what New Japan's been doing. They build their tag division with good matches. So
right. And look, and that's the thing is, right, they just won the titles. They can start fresh here. They can move forward and go, these are our champions, and we're going to treat them like champions now. We're going to have them week in and week out beat, they don't have to beat the top tier tag teams, which I don't even really know who those people are right now in the division. But regardless, you can have them beat the Riders and Hawkins, the Apollo Crews, and some random guy. I don't even take anybody off the street. Just random people. Have them look credible week in, week out, regardless of who they are, and build them up that way. And then you can put them against maybe heavy machinery if they start to connect with the crowd a little bit more. You could easily see them be planted into that role. I mean, I just think that's the biggest thing with me is people, I'm very willing to give second and third chances. And I think they have a second chance here, the Revival finally winning those tag titles. But now be credible. Now build these guys up and have them feud against somebody that we actually care about.
Yeah, and I think if they had kind of the gimmick where, some of the great tag team champions of all time had this kind of story, and I'm going to get to it in 1 second, but the Midnight Express did it. Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard did it. That's a tag team that doesn't always dominate. That every defense they have or every match they have, they're within a fucking hair of losing. And that's what I think the Revival would be fantastic at. And I hope they go that way. And then somehow they win with cheating or just a way to keep them as heels, man. They have a lot of talent, dude. And I kind of hope they stick around WWE, but I'd also love to see them have a match against the Young Bucks. I think that would be fucking awesome. So, and let's talk for a brief second about AEW. But first, I want to give our grades for the show. I gave this one a C-. It was in the D category. It was in the D category until the final match and the Vince McMahon announcement at the end of the show. I mean, when something big happens on Monday Night Raw, especially the close of the night, I get a little bit excited about it because something big doesn't always happen. It's few and far between when we get major announcements from Vince McMahon. And for the years coming, we're going to get less and less of those, obviously. So I would give it a C-, bro. What do you got?
Let me just, before I give my grade, I just want to talk a little bit about that final segment because I didn't really get to, I briefly touched on it in the beginning.
Absolutely. Go for it.
Just the decision-making in the end here where, again, I don't want to compare the two, but I'm going to have to because he's the closest thing I recognize to her character. And that's Steve Austin, right? Take Steve Austin. Let's take Steve Austin and plug him right into that role, right? And he's in front of Stephanie, he's in front of Triple H, and they're telling him he has to apologize or else he's not going to get his match. He's sitting there and imagine Steve Austin sitting there and going, "I'm sorry, I apologize. Now give me my match," and then Becky Lynch just moves on. Oh, that's it? Oh, great. I can just sit in the ring now and talk shit to Ronda Rousey. Like, in what world would Steve Austin actually do that? And let me take you back to what Steve Austin would do in that segment. He would flip the bird to Stephanie. He would flip the bird to Triple H. He'd stun them both, drink beer over them, and leave. And he wouldn't give a flying fuck if he had his match at WrestleMania or not because into existence. He would find a way to get it anyway. And if the point here, right, like let's think of this, right? The point here anyway, they suspended her for 60 days anyway, right? And she's in storyline, she's going to miss WrestleMania and Charlotte Flair is going to take her place. What difference would it have made if you just had her not apologize if she was going to get suspended anyway? Right? Like in storyline, just thinking about it, right? Like if from a booker's perspective, I'm going to suspend this character anyway. why not make her look as strong as we possibly can, especially considering she's probably going to be in the match anyway. Why not make her look as strong as she possibly can and tell Triple H and tell Stephanie to fuck off, and I'm not apologizing. I don't care what you want or what it is. I'm not apologizing, and leave or beat the crap out of both of them, or beat the crap out of Ronda. Like, if they were going to do that anyway, I just feel like they could have made her look a lot better. She comes away looking like a weak, little girl who is too big for this moment, and it just really did not connect with me. I mean, and again, maybe I'm nitpicking and I'm going a little bit too far, but it just really did not connect with me, and they could have done so much better. They could have done so much better.
Yeah, they look at her like they looked at Daniel Bryan. They look at her like that, or like they look at Mick Foley, like a guy who, shouldn't be in that position, but now is in the position. And Becky Lynch, what was her WrestleMania position last year? Wasn't she in like the Battle Royal, the Women's Battle Royal, I think, or something? Like, I don't think she had a major position on the show last year. And to me, that's an indication of where the McMahons really think she is on the card. Now, I know she's gotten over big time, but dude, I'm with you 100%. She came off looking weak. She's not Stone Cold Steve Austin. She's more Daniel Bryan. It's just really a fan movement behind her, and she's getting screwed. The Vince McMahon told us that she doesn't matter tonight.
Right.
Vince McMahon, like, this guy wants the biggest possible match at WrestleMania. He told us that Becky Lynch is not that match. That's exactly what he said. So, I mean, you're absolutely correct, dude. She came off lame. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. As far as a grade, though, this is a good old solid D. I'm not going to give it an F because I feel like there were some redeeming qualities here in this show. But like I said on Twitter, for all these shards of gold that was on this show, it was far and away exceeded with piles and piles of shit.
Yeah, great way to put it, man. It was an awful Raw. So if you haven't voted in our poll, vote in our poll over at PWP Nation on Twitter. We have a weekly Raw poll. We've been doing them for years now. So check that out. Go vote in that poll and check us out at pwpnation.com. Lots of new content up, lots of news, the top news. All Elite Wrestling's making tons of news, crazy amount of news. They sold out their show already. Double or Nothing sold out today. The pre-sale sold out. I don't know if that means all the tickets are gone or what, but they sold out, and Batista might be talking to them. So you can check out that at pwpnation.com. And that's all I got, Aaron. Anything else to like wrap up this show?
No, thank God. Thank God baseball season's almost here. I'll say that. And hopefully Raw can pick it up, because this does not feel like the road to WrestleMania, folks.
No, it's been pretty lame so far, but we do have a lot of time to get to WrestleMania. That's why I'm worried, because they have a lot of content to produce from here to WrestleMania. But I'm going to go watch the Edge and Christian show, because that thing is hilarious, bro. You watch that?
I do. I actually check it out here and there. I haven't watched the most recent season, but they're actually low key funny. Like I think people, their humor is hit or miss. Like some of the stuff is it's kind of a toilet humor, but when they get like kind of smarky, like they can, like, these underhanded like little digs at certain, like when you have to read between the lines sometimes. I really like when they do shit like that. But,
Me too, dude.
Yeah, no, good show. Yeah.
I love the fact that the entire show is a rib on Tommy Dreamer.
I love that. Yeah,
that's the thing. I think everybody loves that, man, because Tommy Dreamer is such a character. So, all right, man, I'm out of here. I'll talk to you later.
All right, peace,
everybody.